Hello and welcome to a truth review of the Razer Blade 2017-2018 edition laptop. At the time of doing this review in May 2018, this is the most powerful 14-inch model out, and we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly when it comes to not just this Razer Blade laptop, but Razer Blade in general. And trust us, there is a very ugly side to the way Razer treat their customers once they have your money. And we'll go into more detail about that a little bit later on, but let's focus on the laptop for now. The Razer Blade comes with an NVIDIA GeForce 1060 graphics card, has an Intel Core i7 processor, the i7 7700HQ to be exact, running at 2.8 GHz with a turbo boost speed of up to 3.8. Comes with 16 GB of non-removable DDR4 2400 MHz dual channel RAM and PCIe based storage. We recommend that with any of Razer's products where you can replace the hard drive yourself, you go ahead and you buy the lowest configuration, the 256, and buy something like a Samsung Evo SSD, which we did ourselves, a 1TB one, and put that in there. As with the Razer Blades, you never really know the manufacturer of the internal storage is different depending on when you get the laptop, and at least this way you're in charge of making sure you get the best storage available. This also has the killer Wi-Fi card. This can be problematic. We had an issue with one of the 3 Razer Blades we bought where the card wasn't working, as dealing with Razer was an absolute nightmare, so we just ended up doing the repair ourselves. We'll go into more about that later on. Other than the Wi-Fi card, there's also a 1920 by 1080 HD IPS matte display. It's better than the reflective screens, at least that's what I prefer it more than I did on my MacBook Pro. However, the resolution compared to other top-end laptops is pretty low, and it sits inside this absolutely horrendous bezel. There's also a 4K UHD display option, but that also sits inside this large bezel, unfortunately, and seems to always be sold out on Razer's website. It has this gorgeous chroma key keyboard that displays, according to Razer, 16.8 million color options. Now, if you count 1 million different shades of each color, then yeah, sure, it has that many, but it's a really good keyboard. And for anyone who's ever had a MacBook Pro, you know when you first open it and you run your fingers over the keys, they feel really smooth, but then once the oil from your fingers get on it, it never goes back to that. With Razer, whenever you clean this laptop, the keys feel as smooth and nice to touch as they did when it first came out the box. I actually really like this keyboard. I've been using Macs for 10 years, and I thought I would not enjoy changing to this keyboard, but it's been okay. And the trackpad as well. Again, going from a MacBook, which has an amazing trackpad, to this trackpad, I'd heard a lot about how Windows can never match up to it. There was a small period of adjustment, but nothing really major. Now, the ports are as follows. The Thunderbolt 3 port cannot be used for charging, and this is due to the limitations on the amount of power a Thunderbolt 3 port can supply. Now, the USB-C port, however, has this issue in terms of if you use it to connect to an external monitor, it won't be able to use the internal graphics card, the internal 1060 graphics card, so you only get the onboard graphics card, which is really underpowered, compared to the 1060 anyway. So if you want a resolution that's decent, you can even get higher than 1080p. You can get, if you connect it to an external device with a HDMI, you can do that, but you need to use the HDMI port, and then it will use the 1060 graphics card. The issue then arises that if you have a monitor that's USB-C only and doesn't have HDMI, you're stuck with the onboard graphics card. Now, the build is something that I personally found a very attractive selling point for me. As someone who'd been with a MacBook Pro user for over a decade, switching to Windows laptops, I was a little bit worried about the build quality. And I always loved the idea of a matte black finish metal. I always loved the idea of a matte black finish metal laptop. And as amazingly beautiful as this laptop looks, there are some issues with having that black finish to it. First of all, fingerprints. Within seconds, the laptop looked like this. Fingerprints, you can wipe this thing completely clean, and within a minute, you'll have 2 issues. First of all, there'll be fingerprints everywhere. And second of all, there will be dust specks everywhere. Dust is white, this is black, so you will see specks of dust. I literally wiped my laptop down when I started this review, and when I started editing this review only 5 minutes ago, and it's already just, if I look down at it, it's got white specks everywhere. The speakers, as good as they are, and they're probably the best that I've ever heard on a Windows machine, they have hundreds of tiny little holes that get filled with dust pretty quickly, and they're impossible to clean because the holes are so small, and if you, no matter how many times you wipe it with a cloth, with a microfiber cloth, a laptop wet cloth, it doesn't matter. Those speakers aren't going to ever look like they did when they were brand new. It's a little bit of an annoyance, but nothing major. We had some issues with the build quality too. Firstly, on all 3 of our Razer blades we had, when removing the sticker on the top left corner, you know the sticker you get on a screen display that says Full HD screen, it's a shiny sticker that takes up a bit of the screen as well. Once we remove that, it actually takes off some of the black finish around the bezel, and you can see a faint outline of where the sticker was. This is crazy. It's a £2,500 laptop, and they couldn't be bothered to test this in the factory. Every one of our 3 laptops left this on the side of the screen, and no matter how much wiping we did using wet wipes, anything we could get our hands on, they wouldn't come out. This is actually quite an issue for, you're paying this much for a laptop, you open it up, and before you've even turned it on for the very first time, you remove a sticker and you've already left with a slight mark on your machine. Not the best of experiences straight off the bat, but that was the least of our problems, to be honest. The other things you need to watch out for, this laptop scratches so easily. I mean, you have to be really cautious. We had a skin on top and bottom of all our machines. Whenever I travel, I take this particular machine myself, and whenever I travel, I always put it in a sleeve, and then I put the sleeve in a laptop bag, and it still managed to, from the buckle of my watch, wear off some of the black paint finish on the edge of the laptop, which is pretty annoying, especially considering the price of it. But again, that wasn't really that much of an issue compared to what else we were about to come up with. The main issues here in terms of build quality is the chassis. 2 out of our 3 laptops had warped chassis straight out of the box. And the third, after only 2 to 3 months of use, the third one's the one that I took. Not only does the laptop no longer sit on a table flat, it actually wobbles. I also have the issue that the screws, I noticed I could hear something when I was typing on it. I turned the lap side upside down, and the screws, every single one of the screws had loosened up over a period of 2-3 months. And I had to get a screwdriver and tighten every one of the screws back. This happened about a week or 2 ago, and even today when I tightened the screws, I could see that there was a little bit of give in them again. Now, the keyboard is a major selling point for this laptop. Being able to customize all the keys in any color you want is very cool, makes gaming and video editing much easier, as when you just look down, for example, in DaVinci Resolve, I have the laptop set out with, all my cut keys and ripple delete and all my delete keys in red, and it's just easy to just glance down and without having to read the actual letter on the key, and it's fun. It makes it easier, and it's actually, it's actually a talking point as well. A lot of people find it really cool. However, one of our laptops, the first laptop we had an issue where once we pressed the function key, all the lights would die and they would not come back on. We tried updating the firmware, reinstalling Windows. We went back and forward with Razer for months trying to sort this out. And this is where our biggest issue comes up. Razer's customer service is the most abysmal excuse of customer service I have ever experienced with any company in my life. We had an issue with all 3 of our laptops. Now, if you think maybe we had a bad batch, even though we didn't order them at the same time and from the same place, then I suggest you go and check out Linus's Tech Tips channel. They ordered, I believe, 12 of these laptops, and they had an issue with half of theirs. The same kind of issues we had with warped chassis, with chargers not working, with the Wi-Fi card going out. They had the exact same issues that we had. And we also suggest that you go on to Razer's own website and just take a look at the amount of customers that had issues with Razer. And, there's what I did a little bit of research to see if there's any new updates just before I started doing the voiceover for this review. And there was a guy on there who said he's had 4 Razer Blade Pros, and every one of them he's had issues with. And the last one he just sold as seen on eBay and is done with the company because their customer service, they just take so long in dealing with issues. I'm talking months. but we'll talk about this a little bit later on. So if you take a look at our failure rate and Linus's Tech Tips failure rate, it seems that between our 15 machines, we've had more than a 50% failure rate. We had an issue with the keyboard. The charger stopped working on another machine after a week, and despite being under warranty, Razer took over a month to replace our faulty charger. Our only other option, if we wanted a charger quicker, if it was our only laptop, would have been to have spent almost £120. And amazingly, Razer would have given us one the very next day if we were willing to do that. However, if you want a warranty replacement, they'll make you wait a month. And if it's your only laptop, you'll be without it for a month at this stage. This is horrible customer service. Then we had an issue with all three laptops eventually having bent chassis, as we said. The battery stopped charging on another laptop. The Wi-Fi card stopped charging on this laptop. And as I said, I was so frustrated with Razer and having to deal with them that I actually went and bought another Wi-Fi card and did the repair myself, even though this was under warranty, because I thought, okay, £50, it's not worth the hassle of having to deal with Razer. Because when we had an issue with the keyboard lights not working, for example, it took an astonishing 62 emails before Razer agreed to fix our laptop. That repair would have taken up to 4 weeks after the initial 2 months of emails going forward and back. And this is something as simple as the lights not coming on the keyboard. They got us to numerous times reinstall Windows, reinstall drivers. And even though we did it 4 or 5 times, every time you constantly seem to be passed around from one tier to another tier of support, and they get you to do the exact same thing. And they take a day or two to reply each time. Think about that, 62 emails before a very, very simple problem was fixed. Now, this is a very frustrating thing as well. The last 2 emails we got from them was just confirmation that we would like a repair. No, I mean, what, you expect us to keep a £2,500 laptop that's less than 3 months old, and you don't want us to, are we supposed to just accept it and not repair it? Of course we want to repair. And then you'd reply saying, of course, why would I not want to repair? And then they would reply saying, so just to be clear, you would want to repair. I could go on for ages, but Razer's customer service, you are literally on your own. If you have a problem with a laptop for whatever reason, expect to spend months without a laptop. You better have a backup one. As for the performance, let's get back to some positives. As for the performance, it is a great laptop when it comes to gaming. Gaming's as good as you would expect. Sure, the fans get very loud, even to the point where they're pretty distracting. We tried Far Cry 5, for example, and the results on Far Cry 5 were really good. I mean, this is a brand new 2018 game, pretty demanding on the machine, and whilst when we put it on Ultra, it definitely wasn't playable. Even on high settings, you could tell there was frame rates being dropped. Once we put it on medium settings, it ran fine, and there wasn't an issue even connecting it to an external display. We connected a Bluetooth controller, Xbox One Bluetooth controller, and we gamed as we would on any console. But let's take a quick look and see what it looks like for Far Cry 5. As you can see, it's pretty smooth, works really well, no real hiccups. And we'll take a look at Final Fantasy 15 and see what that looks like when connected to an external monitor now. And let me just show you what that looks like. And this is connected actually to a 50-inch TV. So it was just like playing the PS4 version. No issues whatsoever to report. As for, video editors out there, using DaVinci Resolve wasn't a problem. It did struggle with Premiere Pro when we put in 4K footage from a GH5, even with the resolution set to half, which was a bit of a weird issue. But as we said, with DaVinci Resolve, there was none of these issues. Now, overall, unfortunately, the shortcomings of this laptop ruined what was otherwise a pretty good experience, with an insanely high failure rate and consistently appalling customer service, not just for us, but for just go online and do a search and you will see. With their appalling customer service, we couldn't in any way recommend this laptop unless it's a backup laptop that you have for luxury. And if you have that kind of money to spend $2,500 on a luxury backup laptop, good for you. There's also every chance that you will have an issue with your laptop. And if you do, you're on your own. Because to be honest with you, Razer have shown time and again that they couldn't care less. Once they have your money, they couldn't care less. This is, fixing your issues is the least of their priorities. they'd much rather throw little media events and show off their new machines. Do we recommend this laptop? Absolutely not. It's the price you're paying for it is just too inconsistent in terms of having a decent laptop that will actually last you even 6 months. And again, you're completely on your own. Razer really need to focus on building items that last and having a customer service that actually gives a damn and doesn't make you wait 2 months for a repair, only to then tell you the repair itself will now take another month. Razer really need to get it together.